Quinshawn Junkins got arrested in Fort Lauderdale. He spent the night in jail. He's accused of. So regardless of legal outcome, that does not matter when it comes to the NFL's investigative procedures.
I got to get off the Quinshawn Junkins train. Terrible news, as I thought future star running back Quinshawn Junkins, former Ohio State national champion, former Ole Miss Rebel, is arrested for DV and battery. Now, this is terrible. This is awful. This is somebody that, if you've been watching on my channel, I've been beating the drum for Quinshawn Junkins as well as Dylan Sampson. These are two players who did historic things at the college football level, both of them in their respectively in their own rights, right? And everybody seemed to be high on Quinshawn Junkins, right? Ohio State guy, did some big things, XYZ, and seemingly with the loss of Nick Chubb, the Browns were really ready to lean on these two explosive rookies. Now, the story gets really complicated for Quinshon in specific because he's in the middle of holding out for his contract, like a lot of different second round picks are right now, or I believe he's a second round picks are right now. So that gets even muddier. We'll get to that at the end of that, but I just want to make it clear because y'all know I've made videos. I've talked about Mike Green. I've talked about all these different people. I don't really have a lot of sympathy for these types of cases, but what I will say is I tried to wait until he actually had his court hearing, trying to wait till we get more details. But as of right now, all we really have are just the details that he's being accused of something pretty awfully, right? Daniel Oifosi, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I don't want to disrespect him or his family, but he does great Browns reporting, great NFL reporting in general. Make sure you follow him if you do use X. But from Sergeant David Soika with the Fort Lauderdale Police Department, so this is some more detailed media relations unit. On July 12th at approximately 9 a.m., Fort Lauderdale police officers responded to the 1500 block off West Cypress Creek Road in reference to a delayed bat. I don't want to say this full thing. Officers arrived on scene and spoke with the victim. During the preliminary investigations, it was determined a bat had occurred. The officers made contact with the suspect and placed him into custody. He was transported to Broward County main jail. The suspect has been identified as Quinshawn Junkins, 10/29/2003. That makes me feel old. And has been charged with misdemeanor batteries and domestic. I don't know what I can and can't say. I just want to try to skirt around it. But here's the big thing, right? As much as this is terrible, and I'm really hoping that this is a misunderstanding, and maybe it wasn't him, beating on ladies. Maybe it was him just beating on, maybe he got into a fight, maybe whatever. I don't know the full details as of now. Now, if it comes out that he was actually beating on ladies or whatever it is, for right now, I don't think we have any details other than that it's a misdemeanor, right? But if you're a Browns fan, you gotta feel a certain type of way. I just told my wife that the kid from Ohio State the Browns drafted in the second round was arrested for DV. She said, wait, wasn't that last year? This is 2 years in a row. Weird fact, a second round pick has now been arrested in back-to-back seasons before week 1, right? Obviously, we know what Shedeur Sanders was doing last month, right? Shedeur Sanders was a speed demon last month. I think everybody was just kind of ha-ha. It's funny, it's crazy, blah, blah, blah. But this gets a little bit more serious. This is something that can, if gets more serious, can really sideline him and maybe mess up his contract negotiation. But let's start with some more details here from Drew Davenport. The one thing to remember, he says, before we even get started, is something I say all the time in these threads. Domestic cases are one of the most unpredictable cases in the criminal justice system. We have no idea what the circumstances are surrounding the arrest itself. Again, as of now, I'll get to more details. He was supposed to be in court. I've been looking at what time he's supposed to be in court. That's why I've been trying to delay this video. He still hasn't been in court. We don't have anything else. And I think even when he goes to court, he's really just going to find out when he's released. And at the end of the day, this is a misdemeanor. But continuing on, we could have alleged facts that point to wildly different outcomes once we hear them. Sometimes in DV situations, the victim is not the reporting party and she doesn't want any part in the prosecution of the case. Sometimes it's the opposite. She's ready to help and will seek incarceration for other sanctions. We don't know this critical information yet. What does it matter? It matters because DV cases are also often the type of cases where only two parties are present. That can lead to problems for the state's case. We've seen these types of cases end up with convictions or just outright dismissals. It's too early to know what the victim wants here. Judkins is charged with a violation of Florida Statute 784, and that's a bat with a maximum punishment of 1 year in jail. I can say jail, 1 year in jail or $1,000 fine, right? So the only way it's a felony if he has a prior offense, which I'm not saying that he does. I believe this stays in misdemeanor land. So let's to get to some of the common questions I've received already. Is being held without bond normal? And he is, well, it is the weekend, but I'll let him explain. Yes and no. Bond for a misdemeanor is rarely denied. So my belief is that the only reason he doesn't have a bond yet is that he needs to see a judge where the victim is given a chance to seek restraining order while the case is pending. The judge will also consider the victim's statement, the defendant's history, and other relevant issues. Does he have a place to go where she isn't living before deciding on bond? This is much different than, say, a theft or a DUI. The initial appearance is incredibly important to the process. Why is this on a Sunday? Broward County is a big place. Sunday court usually happens purely from a case flow standpoint. They have a lot of them. Don't read anything into this yet. Judkins is fortunate he doesn't have to sit until Monday to see a judge. Should I be prepared for a long absence from the NFL? What about the commissioner exempt slips? The NFL's personal conduct policy has become much stricter in recent years with respect to violence, in particular domestic issues. What's it called? My preliminary thought is that we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves about a long absence. This is a misdemeanor after all. However, the exempt list pictured looms over this case more than other violations. In recent years, we've seen the league go both ways on this. Just to read this, right? A player may be placed on paid administrative leave or pursuant I can't even read that, to the commissioner exempt list under either of the following circumstances. All right. First, when a player is formally charged with a felony offense, okay, or two, a crime of violence, meaning that he's accused of having used physical force or weapons to injure, threaten person or animal, or have endangered an actual assault, I don't want to say that, by force or arranged a person who is incapable. Okay, second, when an investigation leads the commissioner to believe that a player may have violated this policy by committing any of the conduct identified above, he may act where the circumstances and evidence warrant doing so. So the decision will not reflect a finding of guilt or innocence, and he will not be guided by the same legal standards considerations that would apply to a criminal trial. So I do want to point that out. One, that, hey, this is a misdemeanor, right? So, but I do also want to point out that it's only a misdemeanor because it's his first time. But then I also want to point out to his facts. We don't know what happened. We don't, as of right now, it's just domestic. And obviously domestic is just home stuff. Now, that typically means problems with the lady, but hey, it could be him and his brother. It could be him and his whatever. It's kind of been applied that it's a lady, but again, I haven't even seen any real rumors other than people just assuming it's a lady, because typically when we hear DV, we assume a lady. So I haven't heard anything else in particular. I haven't heard anything from the court date that was supposed to happen. As we stand right now, he's just waiting to see the judge, and obviously as things come out, I think things are going to make hopefully a little more sense. And I'm really hoping that it's a case where, hey, this was just a misunderstanding or it wasn't as big of a deal or whatever. But I got to be honest with you. If it comes out that it was involving him doing something to a lady, I got to get off the Quinshawn Junkins train. I'm sorry. This is not, you know what I'm saying? It's crazy because even when I was looking at stuff, so many people have had positive things to say about it, right? Quinshawn Junkins hasn't been in trouble before. The same thing that I say about Shador, right? Him not having anything. Quinshawn Junkins was like a model of success. Like, he was just like a quiet dude. He goes, plays football, and he gets it done, right? So when you get to this point, it almost feels like, I know some people might just feel like it's just the Browns being what do you call it? The Browns being the Browns, and the Browns just being a terrible organization and picking these types of people. But I don't think that Shador is known as a terrible person through his career. Quinshon wasn't known, and obviously no one else has done anything yet. So we'll have to wait and see if anybody else from this class has any more problems. But I remember just a few days ago, I was making a video talking about how I think this is going to be one of the best rookie classes for the Browns, and I think we might have to eat crow, because so far they had a need for speed and they're beating on people. That's not great. That's not phenomenal. And I feel bad that I have to eat those words, but I do want to stress that if it comes out that it's a lady, we have to look at him a little different way. I'm sorry about it, mama's boy. I can't rock or sock or lock. If we gonna give Deshaun Watson jokes, we do Ray Rice jokes. You know what I'm saying? I can't look at Quinshon the same way. But again, we need details. As of right now, though, what I can tell you and I can guarantee you is him holding out for his contract and him being one of the 30 other picks that are holding off their contract. This don't look great for a guaranteed contract. I'm sorry, but this is the NFL. And it sucks that this is it comes down to this. Again, I'm hoping that, you know, there isn't anything going on. But imagine if it isn't against a lady. Imagine if it is just the best case scenario for this scenario. By the way, it is a misdemeanor, right? It's not him being a lady. It's some other misunderstanding. Maybe the case gets dropped. Maybe it was just something else, right? Let's assume that. This is still not great for contract negotiations, dog. It's not going to help you in holding out for that contract. So let's get deeper into it, right? So Quinshawn Junkins at the time of this, right? This is June 24th, but at the time of this right now, he still hasn't signed. Oh, here it is. Important note, Quinshawn Junkins has not signed his contract yet, and he was holding out for more guaranteed money. So that is super tough. Now, the bigger story here that we're going to get into after we read why Quinshawn Junkins was holding out is we're going to read into why NFL draft picks in general are holding out, because I believe Tyler Shough hasn't signed. I believe there's a bunch of second rounders who haven't signed. Obviously, Shamar Stewart, who is first round pick, if I'm not mistaken, right? And he's holding out for a whole different reason. That's a whole different can of worms. But let's read deeper into why, as of June 24th, they hadn't signed him. So why haven't the Browns hired Quinshawn Junkins yet? The rookie running back is one of the 30 second round picks that remain unsigned. Jaden Higgins, the 34th overall pick by the Texans, received a fully guaranteed 4-year, $11.7 contract. Hey, man. Hey, sorry about it. We fucked the market up for y'all. Deal with it. We got a mini Nico Collins just because we can. Stroud boys. Sorry, I had to point that out because, you know, my Texans were mentioned. Carson Schweringer, who the Browns took one spot before Higgins, also received a fully guaranteed contract of 4-year, $11.8. Now, this is where it gets sticky right here. This is where it gets sticky. So the Browns had already offered a linebacker, right? It'd be different if it was a quarterback or like an offensive tackle. But when you offer a linebacker a fully guaranteed contract, a running back's gonna be like, yo, we have a similar shelf life. Why can't I get my fully guaranteed contract? So I hate to point this out, but I mean, we're talking about NFL. The NFL is a business. Dog, Andrew Berry's probably happy this happened. I know people are ragging on Andrew Berry. They have a great example of why I don't need to pay you Carson Schweringer money, because this is a pickle. This is a predicament, because you have to look at both of those rookies and say who is going to be more valuable to you. Somebody who needs to be an immediate impact in Quinshawn Junkins because you just let go of one of the best running backs in the league. I know you have D Ford. Shout out to D Ford. He can ball too now, but he had some leverage. All that leverage is gone. Like, he had real leverage. He was probably poised to be a running back one of the more explosive running backs, right? And you do something like this, and again, I really hope that it's not what it is. I'm hoping that, things happen and he can regain that leverage, but we know how it is. It's not going to happen. So Schweringer and Higgins became the first players in NFL history to be taken in the second round and receive fully guaranteed contracts. Judkins was taken at number 36 overall by the Browns, just a few spots later than Schweringer. With Schweringer having received a fully guaranteed contract, is it reasonable to believe Judkins expects the same? But the problem is, obviously, the NFL at large doesn't view running backs the same way. And now I think it's starting to turn around, right? I think it's starting to turn around with Saquon, with Derrick Henry being like 87 years old and still going for 1,900 yards. I don't even know how old he is. He's only like 30-something. Like all these older the Texans, Joe Mixon, he had a great year too. Like, so there's a lot of people disproving the idea that running backs are, once they hit 30, they just or once they hit 27, they're done. Just stop playing with them, right? But I don't think having this on your record is going to help you at all. So that's what doubly sucks, right? Even if all best case scenarios happen and it's actually not that big of a deal. He wasn't hitting the lady. It wasn't all that stuff. At the end of the day, them NFL GMs are going to look at you and say, you want fully what? Matter of fact, your whole contract's incentive based. That's what just happened, and who knows what actually really happens, but you get kind of where I'm getting at. So as of June 26th, Corey Kinnan, Browns Wire, does some great stuff. I'll watch or we read a lot of their stuff. So this is Browns Wire USA Today. This is what he had to say at more length about the whole situation. So The Browns are about a month from training camp as of him writing that, but second-round pick Quinshawn Junkins remain unsigned. Despite this lack of pen to paper, Judkins has participated in every on-field event for the Browns have held this offseason. If you have paid attention, this is not just an issue with Cleveland, but with nearly every second-round pick around the NFL. There's a reason why. Defensive tackle Darius Alexander, the first pick of the third round, signed his rookie contract with $6.7 million. He was given only $1.5 million in guaranteed money. Carson Schweringer, who the Browns selected with the first pick in the second round, saw his entire rookie contract guaranteed. This is the same with 34th overall pick, wide receiver Jaden Higgins, right? And we already talked about that. The 35th overall pick, Seattle Seahawks safety Nick Emanwari, he remains unsigned. Every single second round pick behind Emanwari not signed. So that, it's kind of crazy because although this is bad for Quinshawn Junkins, when you actually zoom out, this was like a storm waiting to happen, right? All of these players are kind of on thin ice if you're a second round pick, all wanting these record-setting basically contracts of everybody wanting guaranteed money. And that's going to put a lot of players in some weird predicaments. So I think it's interesting to view the whole, and it's putting some teams in some predicaments too. I mean, I think we have to acknowledge that as well. So Junkins is Junkins is likely waiting for Emanwari to sign. If Emanwari signs a fully guaranteed rookie contract as well, then the Ohio State running back has the leverage to also push for a fully guaranteed contract. So that was his big hammer that he was waiting to fall. I still believe Nick Emanwari remains unsigned. So that's something that still hasn't happened. On the opposite end of the spectrum, the Eagles safety Andrew Makuba, who was the last pick of the second round, has not signed yet either. Second round contracts have been bottlenecked from both ends. The Eagles are likely trying to use Alexander, the 65th pick, as a starting point for Makuba's contract. Then the dominoes fall from there. However, Makuba is likely waiting for every other second round pick to fall first. If every single other second round pick before him receives a guaranteed contract, which at this point is very unlikely, Quinshon, you messed it up for Andrew Makuba. You messed it up for my Longhorns, son. Then he too will push for one. Something has to give. Either the Eagles win out and get Makuba to sign a deal that has guarantees prorated to that of Alexander, the first pick of the third round, or the Seahawks have to give Emanwari a fully guaranteed contract. Regardless, Quinshawn Junkins is far closer to the front end of the second round than the back end, as the Browns expect him to be their starting running back. This means he'll likely receive a fully guaranteed contract unless Emanwari folds. The teams won't want this to bleed into training camp with less than a month until then. And I think it just got even nastier with this entire situation. People are calling for Andrew Berry. And I really want to end this by saying this is just a terrible situation. And I really hope that all people involved, get the help they need. And that's not just talking to Quinshawn Junkins, right? Because he's in a crazy predicament. Now him and his contract just got so much more complicated when you think about that domino effect that has now happened. Because what happens if Nick Emanwari does sign a fully guaranteed, and then the pick after Quinshawn Junkins signs that fully guaranteed pick? Well, then what leverage does Quinshawn pick? Does he have any at that point? I don't know. I'm really hoping that this is all a misunderstanding. I'm hoping nobody got affected. I'm hoping that this comes out as positive, because I've really enjoyed Quinshawn Junkins. I think that he's a great player, and by all accounts, he's been a good guy. So we're just gonna wait until the full details come out. But as of now, this is a terrible situation, both for the Browns and for him. And you just let me know down below in the comments how you feel. Do you think that things are going to be sorted out? Did you have Quinshawn as a starting? And to be honest, even if the worst case scenario happens from what we see, I don't think that unless he goes on commissioner's list, and it's literally the worst case scenario, because that is the worst case scenario. Unless that happens, he might lose a little money in his contract, but that does not mean he can't play. So I'm just really hoping that it's the best for all people, and everybody kind of is safe and safer and is better off in this situation. I don't want to sit here and try to hold football and contracts over the fact that somebody's life potentially was in danger. But obviously, we're going to see more details as it comes out. I'll report those and kind of go from there. Appreciate y'all watching, man. Hope to leave a like if you like it, dislike if you don't like it, subscribe if you like football content, updates, and everything else in between. We'll see you next time. Peace.